Okay, so I'm going to give New York 1 some credit tonight. It is December 1st, and we are less than a month away from a new mayor being sworn in. Eric Adams, of course. So as we approach the important dates of January 1st, two important stories New York 1 covered tonight. First, they covered an awful house explosion in Brooklyn, and they covered de Blasio letting junkies safely inject themselves. Like, what is de Blasio thinking a month before he's leaving office? Probably he's taking crack. You know, he's secretly taking crack in Gracie Mansion a month before he leaves office. That's what he's up to. That's what he's probably up to. You know, let him. He's a dope anyway who needs to go back to Park Slope. But anyhow, before I rant about how I'm glad de Blasio's finally leaving and how he's going to make an idiot out of himself running for governor, in order to find out the important stories that got covered tonight, we have to scroll below, and we're going to quickly take a look at some of these articles. Okay, here we go. 6 injured after explosion and fire rocks the Cypress Hill block. So, this happened last night. So it says here, 6 people were injured overnight and dozens displaced after an explosion and 3-alarm fire broke out inside a Brooklyn home. FDNY said crews responded to the call just after 12 a.m. at 58 Vermont Street in Cypress Hills. When they arrived, firefighters encountered heavy fire in the cellar, first and second floors of the home. Flames also spread to neighboring homes on both sides as well as the building behind the home at 112 Jamaica Avenue. The FDNY says 2 residents were inside the Vermont Street home on an upper floor where an explosion erupted in the basement. Both were able to evacuate on their own with non-life-threatening injuries. The FDNY said over 33 units and 138 firefighters were called over to the scene. Con Edison was also called to investigate a possible gas emergency. The FDNY says 2 people at the scene were transported to Brookdale Hospital and 4 others refused medical care. At least 54 people who were displaced from the homes are receiving assistance from the American Red Cross and New York City Office of Emergency Management. The fire marshal is looking into the cause and is investigating. So, let's just quickly take a look at New York 1. And this is actually from the morning newscast with Pat Kiernan. And as you can see here, this is from the Citizen app. And just, you know, very, very awful story that came out of Brooklyn. So we're just going to fast forward and just take a look at some videos that New York 1 did show. And here's the explosion right here. Oh, man, let's replay that. Let's replay that. Let me center it so you can see it. Yeah, here's the explosion. They're going to show it again. This is again from the morning. And there it is. Whoa. Whoa. Imagine sleeping in the middle of the night and all of a sudden that happened. In fact, the car alarm went off. Look at that. They're going to show it again. Watch this. Whoa. Look at that car alarm going off over there. I mean, obviously, I'm muting it because I don't want to get claimed for copyright. But as you can see here, this is just very, very scary. And they're going to play it one more time. And I will give them credit. Let me show you this. They actually spent, how long? 2 minutes and 32 seconds covering it. I will give New York 1 credit. They almost spent 3 minutes covering it this morning. Good job by New York 1 on that end. Good job. I will give them some credit. I will give them a lot of credit on that. But a lot of people got displaced, as you see, and just very unfortunate. And look at that. Pat Kiernan was actually asking questions, and I'm very glad. Let's see what Pat Kiernan was actually asking. I'm only going to play that part of the video.
Just tell me about the scene there, because there was a huge response. There was the explosion. If you're trying to get around that area, what will you face this morning?
Well, there is congestion surrounding the area and efforts to get here. Several blocks surrounding Jamaica and Vermont were blocked off. So if you are heading around this way, plan accordingly.
Lewis, thank you.
Again, I will give Pat Kiernan credit for actually asking an important question about road closures. Thank you, Pat, for doing that. That was the right thing to do. And, you know, New York 1 for once actually does the right thing. They actually sent a reporter to Brooklyn, and they actually covered this awful story. I will give them some credit. You know, unlike tonight with Long Island, a lot of stories in Long Island got ignored tonight. There was a bank robbery in Franklin Square. There was a fire at the Green Acres Mall. News 12 Long Island didn't even cover that tonight. So, I was keeping an eye on some of the stories in Long Island, so I will briefly mention that. So, let's read this article. So, de Blasio announced yesterday that we will officially become the first city in the country to allow supervised drug use sites. And look at this. They're putting them in bad areas. No surprise. Washington Heights and East Harlem. Yep, those are diverse areas of New York City. And low income, by the way. Again, de Blasio doesn't care. He's not going to put this in Park Slope. That's his own area. I'm not going to double cross myself. So let's just quickly see what New York One's going to show.
A historic moment here inside this building in East Harlem. It's one of 2 overdose prevention centers to open in Manhattan, making New York City the first in the nation to open supervised injection sites.
Yeah, this is going to be a negative. This is going to be a negative, okay? Because you know what's going to happen. The junkies are going to come out and they're going to commit crime. You know what's going to happen. New York One's making this seem like it's a good thing. It's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. This lady sounds like she's happy about it, whoever she is. Unbelievable. But they did spend 2 minutes. I'll give them credit on that. But a couple stories in Queens got ignored. So let's get into it. Let's get into some of the stories that got ignored by New York One. First up, Queens Village. Armed robbery. 105 Precinct reported armed robbery in Queens Village at 94-32 209th Street in a spa. The suspect entered the location and took off with cash. Police described the suspect's male, black, wearing black hat and white hoodie. Ongoing investigation. So, let's look up this address very quickly. I believe I know where this is. No surprise. I know exactly where this is. No surprise. Queens Village. That's where they're going to dump all the problems. And then I commented on this last night. Fire in an apartment in Kew Gardens. FDNY reports fire at 67-30 Parsons Boulevard in Kew Gardens Hills. This is the public housing sector. EMS is checking for injuries. The fire started in the second floor of a 3-story apartment building. Firefighters working. So as you can see here, this happened last night, and I bet New York One didn't even cover it. And in fact, none of the other city stations covered it, come to think of it. By the way, I did add a comment. My engine house in Utopia Parkway, engine 299 ladder 152 did respond, but for whatever reason, I didn't hear the siren going off last night. I'm literally not too far from the firehouse on Utopia Parkway. I mean, their siren's pretty loud. I don't know why I didn't hear it last night. That was kind of odd. But I was informed by Firewire, so that's how I first found out about it. Okay, then we got this. Robbery in Belrose. Police report from the 105 precinct 2 suspects in custody for breaking into vehicles after one was caught with multiple catalytic converters in possession. The incident was reported at 3:30 a.m. at the intersection of 254th Street and 87th Avenue in Belrose. Reported 3 more suspects were in a vehicle on Jericho Turnpike and 251st Street, which took off towards North Little Neck Parkway until a lost chopper was hovering above during the search. By 4 a.m., one person in custody after foot pursuit. Another one by 4:15. By the way, I will mention that here in the Fresh Meadows area, catalytic converter was stolen from a 2001 Honda Odyssey SUV. Owner reported it to 107 Precinct. Ongoing investigation regarding that. As far as the other incidents in Belrose, ongoing investigation there. So, I don't know what's going on with all these catalytic converter robberies. I just don't know. The one in Fresh Meadows I found out through, forums and stuff like that. But that's why I had to make my own addition to that story. I'm not going to say the location of that because, that's still an ongoing investigation. Don't want to get involved with matters with the 107 because then that will get me into more trouble. But there you go. Crime that gets ignored by New York 1. Time and time again, this keeps happening. Yeah, so I'm not going to get into the Long Island stuff. That Pine Power LI had a video tonight. You can watch him if you want Long Island news. I'm just talking about what New York City's not going to have reported. Oh, look at this. More Queens Village robberies. Female victim was robbed on November 18th, 3 p.m. at the intersection of 205th Street and 112th Avenue. Male victim was robbed at November 15th around 1 o'clock, 223rd Street, 107th Avenue. My advice would be don't try to be out between midnight and 5 a.m. because that's when the criminals somehow love to be out. So that's word of advice there. If you don't have to be out between midnight and 5 a.m., just stay home. Even if you're an insomniac, just try to make your time useful at home. Robbery that began as a shoplifting in a local deli in Springfield Boulevard and 116th Road vicinity turned into a robbery after confrontation started. Suspect took off with items. Happened November 15th around 1 p.m. So there you go. Again, New York 1 ignoring us. Why aren't I surprised? And look at this. Carjacking in Richmond Hill. Police report a victim was carjacked at 4 a.m. this morning at 127th Street and 104th Avenue in South Richmond Hill. The suspects displayed a weapon and pushed the victim out of a vehicle, which was a black Chevy Camaro. So very alarming. Very, very alarming. And then this should have been covered by New York 1. Believe it or not, the first source was Adam from Loud Labs who first broke this story. Folks, you cannot make this stuff up with this TV station, New York 1. Alright, again, I'm going to give him a credit. He did do a good job covering what happened in Brooklyn last night, but still, this was another major story that should have been covered. This one right here, this one really takes the cake with what New York 1 should have been focused on. So let's read this one. And I'll make sure you can read it because, do it on the fly with OBS. So here's the headline. Speeding teen driver dies in triple car crash on Henry Hudson Parkway. And again, I was notified on YouTube this morning from Loud Labs New York. So I'll quickly show you some of the video as we go along here. But a speeding teen driver died in a triple car crash in the Henry Hudson Parkway last night. Bronx resident Antonio Forenza was driving at a high speed uptown on the highway near West 134th Street just before 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday, November 30th, when he hit another car, which then struck a third vehicle. For a second, his Honda Civic veered into the right edge of the elevated roadway, flipped over his car several times, and then came to a stop at the Parkway Center lane. Paramedics found the teenager with severe injuries lying in the middle of the road and rushed him to Mount Sinai St. Luke's Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. All of the vehicle occupants in the collision, including a 20-year-old driver in the second car and a 26-year-old operator of the third, was unharmed, and police have not made any arrest. And I'll just mention, I know the stretch of the Henry Hudson very well. Me and my dad have driven on it a couple times when we've gone to our favorite restaurants from Midtown to Westchester a couple times. So that highway does get elevated. So we know it very well going to the Henry Hudson Bridge into the Bronx. So show you the video Adam posted last night. And again, he was the first on scene. I will give Adam all the credit in the world. He deserves it. He definitely does. Because nobody else besides AM New York, somehow, some way, is going to give you exclusive. This is the vehicle right here. Wait a minute. The vehicle had New Jersey license plates? Let's rewind. Yeah, look at this. AM New York forgot to mention the vehicle had a New Jersey license plate. That's a very important part of the story that they missed. And they also didn't mention that the airbag's deployed. Look at this. How could AM New York miss that part of the story? Those are two missing details. Unbelievable. Wow, looks like the rear airbag's deployed too. That's how bad of a crash it was. Yeah, and in that situation, they probably used the jaws of life to pry open the doors. Look at all the shattered glass on the roadway. I mean, that doesn't really need to be mentioned, but again, it should have been mentioned that in the story that AM New York typed up, they should have mentioned that the teenager was driving a vehicle with out-of-state plates. And they say in this article, the teenager was from the Bronx. Why was he driving a vehicle that had New Jersey license plates? I mean, that's suspicious. Yeah, then here's more look of it right here. I mean, clearly, NY1 could have been covering this. And sometimes Adam does get mentioned on them. I will look for it right now. Oh, look at this. Believe it or not, Adam actually went to the house explosion in Brooklyn last night. Thank you, Adam. You know, you deserve all the credit in the world. You know, go support Loud Labs New York because Adam does a great job running the page. There was a couple more stories that got ignored in Queens, so I will check it. But first, let me just see if AM New York has anything other important stuff here. Yeah, shooting in the Bronx. I mean, I'm not going to get into that, because then that will make this video longer than it has to, but... Okay. This is what we're looking for. Oh, boy, you gotta be kidding me. I want to read this one, because I've been taking the 7 train a lot lately. So let me read this. NYPD looking for suspect who slapped 7 train rider in failed robbery attempt. So when did this happen? Police from the 108th Precinct in Long Island City in Transit District 20 are on the lookout for a man who allegedly attacked a strap hanger in the Queensboro Plaza subway station on November 28th. Just before 9 p.m. on Sunday evening, the suspect was riding a southbound 7 train, entering the transit hub when he approached the 45-year-old man and grabbed his cell phone out of his hand. The assailant proceeded to slap the victim across the face, and while doing so, he dropped the rider's cell phone. The victim was able to retrieve his cell phone as the doors opened, and the would-be thief then bolted off the train and across the platform on a northbound end train. So lovely. The suspect was able to flee into Astoria. The victim suffered minor injuries to his face as a result of the assault. NYPD released surveillance image of the suspect, who they described as a man with a light complexion, last seen wearing a light-colored hoodie and a black vest. No arrest, ongoing investigations. So, yep, like Charlton DeSouza always says, ride the subway at your own risk, and it's clearly looking like that. But for people like me who don't want to have somebody drive me into the city, you know, public transit's the only option we got. Especially because, again, a lot of food is cheaper in Manhattan, believe it or not, than Queens. I know, that means a lot. When you're trying to save money in an inflated economy, it means something. Let's move on to the next one. This is going to be our last one we're going to read tonight. Police looking for suspect who threatened an E-train rider before making off with a cell phone in Jackson Heights. The NYPD has released surveillance images of a suspect in a robbery in a broad daylight incident that took place earlier in November. At around 11:30 a.m. on Monday, November 15th, this took place at the E-Train platform inside the Roosevelt Avenue and Broadway subway station. An 18-year-old man was approached by the unidentified man who asked to use his cell phone. Aw, you gotta be kidding me. This was literally a week after when I was at the same station. And imagine if this happened on my birthday. Wow. Just wow. The victim produced his gold iPhone XS Max valued at almost $400. The assailant ripped the phone from the victim's hand and threatened to punch him, but the victim tried to take it back. The suspect then jumped on a World Trade Center bound E-train and the victim was not injured. The video shows a black man with short dreadlocks and facial hair wearing a dark puffy winter jacket, a dark baseball cap, white earbuds, and blue jeans. No arrests have been made. The investigation is ongoing, so... Man, I tell you, I mean, this is very scary. In broad daylight. Man, we really need to be having second thoughts about using our cell phones on train platforms, because after this, you know, if my phone gets robbed, I don't even have Apple Care anymore. Yeah, that's a very scary thought. So, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. Again, I'm going to give NY1 a credit again tonight for a lengthy amount of time. But again, they do ignore the important stories like we just covered tonight. And, you know, NY1 really needs to reevaluate their programming. And, you know, I'm just going to say one last thing. I really don't care who is Speaker of the City Council, okay? I don't even know who the people are. Who are they? They're all Democrats, and no and Joe Borelli's not even throwing his hat into the ring. Even though, again, the Republicans gained a couple seats in the council. So, I'm just going to wrap this up. And you know, NY1, you're going to keep getting called out. Because, again, I'm not going anywhere. Thank you for watching.